I'm Devin Dabney,
I'm Chris Hampton.
and this is how
Hip-hop taught me
Hip-hop taught me creativity,
playfulness,
humility,
courage,
motherhood.
everything.
First off, if you have not listened to this week's episode, J. Cole Taught Me Mentorship, go do that right now. It's only available on Spotify because it's a Music Plus Talk podcast. And with Spotify Premium, you're able to listen to the full song, in this case, Middle Child, immediately after the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we get into these liner notes, Devin, what is your favorite mentor-mentee relationship in all of hip hop for all time?
I love that you added for all of hip hop in perpetuity forever. I feel like it's kind of a basic answer, but I really love Dr. Dre and Eminem's relationship for a few reasons. One, honestly, like the mentorship was kind of a risk for Dr. Dre. I mean, he was picking up a white rapper when at that time, I think Vanilla Ice was the only white rapper that was really popular.
Yep.
And not only that, but his production style had to change a lot for Eminem. So like he's making these like goofy, I mean, we think of them as hits now, but like the beat for like My Name Is and um Real Slim Shady, they've got these like goofy harpsichord, like
Yeah.
it's a far cry from the Chronic. So it was a risk, but he took it and it obviously worked out. And it kind
Yeah,
of leads into
definitely wasn't the like hardcore Dre West Coast
no,
sound.
no. And like, but I mean, and that leads into my other reason for loving this relationship is they both benefited and grew from it. Like
Mhm.
I think mentor mentee relationships are, mutually beneficial. It isn't just about having a teacher teach you everything. It's, the teacher should ideally learn from the relationship too.
For sure.
And I mean, honestly, you even kind of see it in 2001, like the album 2001. The song
Mhm.
"Forgot About Dre" kind of incorporates all that goofy production that he just did for Eminem for the last 10 years. So, yeah, that's probably my favorite.
Yeah, I love it. I almost said Dre and Snoop.
Ooh.
That was my close second for what I chose.
Hmm.
But I went with something that more recently has popped into my head as interesting, and that's Pharrell and Pusha T.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's oh, man, I thought about that too.
and the reason that has popped into my head recently is because Push on Instagram and Twitter recently said that he played Pharrell his new song "Hear Me Clearly" that's out now,
Hmm.
and Pharrell responded, "It's cool, but I don't want you to be a mixtape rapper for the rest of your life." Which which is exactly what he needed, Like,
Yeah,
Pusha T is one of those great what ifs. Like,
I know.
he's a lyrical monster, he's fucking brilliant, and you think back to songs like "Grindin'," and
Hmm.
he can make hits.
Yeah.
So Pharrell saying, "Look, this song is good. I like that you're in your bag, but
Hmm.
you can do more." You know?
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, actually, um, I think of him, Pusha T, as like a great example of longevity in rap.
Mhm.
He's someone that only has gotten better, or at the very least stayed consistently good.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just funny because in my head, I guess I don't think of him as a mixtape rapper because to me, like his albums are all like really, really good.
Yeah.
But I guess
But
he
we're
doesn't.
checking for that?
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Like I'm thinking about that album Daytona that Kanye produced. I'm
Mhm.
like that album is like so solid, but there's not like radio or club songs on it.
Right.
Which yeah, I guess that would kind of make you a mixtape rapper or an underground rapper, I guess.
Yeah, and I read this interview with Pusha T. I think I read it. Maybe I listened to it on a podcast. But he said that way back in the like pre Lord Willin days, like before their first big album came out.
Mhm.
Before we knew who the Clips was, he was sitting at home one day and got a call from Pharrell, who said, "I have a beat. It's going to be the next thing.
Mhm.
You need to get to the studio within the next 15 minutes or I'm giving this beat to Jay-Z." And he was like, "I know your house is 10 minutes away from the studio. That gives you 5 minutes to get the fuck out the door."
Mhm.
Pusha said he was there in 13 minutes, and that beat became grinding. So
Nice.
it almost went to Jay-Z, but
Yeah, but
because Pharrell was willing to push Pusha T, no pun intended, that beat became the fucking classic that it is.
this kind of reminds me of this is not music related, but you know how The Matrix was originally intended for Will Smith to be Neo? It's
Mhm.
like on one hand I'm like, okay, I see why they would have chosen him, but also the movie wouldn't have become what it was if Will Smith was Neo.
Yeah.
Same with that beat
Yeah.
with Jay-Z. Like, could you, I mean, I get like Jay-Z probably would have done a great job, but that song wouldn't have been what it was if it
Right.
wasn't for Clips rapping on it. So it's one of those funny things where like, oh, the fate kind of went the direction it was supposed to.
Yeah, and Pharrell knew that. Like, he knew what Pusha T could do over it, so
Mm-hmm.
he was like, here's your constraint. You have to be here in 15 minutes or else. Like, I can
Yeah.
make you a star, but you got 5 minutes to get ready.
Oh man. Yeah, I hope he does one day go back to making hits because I mean, he's just like I guess I never really thought about it that way until you mentioned it, but yeah, he's a very underappreciated figure in
So
the hip
much.
hop world cuz yeah,
Yeah.
he's just someone I come back to all the time when I think of who has a great flow or who just is a good rapper, like a great rapper
Mhm.
actually. So, yeah, respect is due there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the new album, half produced by Kanye, half produced by Pharrell, so
Ooh, yeah, I
could
am too now that you say that.
could be amazing. All right, let's get into some of these liner notes, fun facts about the song, the album, Middle Child. That's what we talked about on this week's episode. Question: have you seen the documentary Dreamville Presents Revenge?
No, no.
Oh man, you've got to watch it. It's like 30 minutes long. It's on YouTube. I'll have the link in the show notes here.
Mhm.
And it's all of the recording sessions for the album that Middle Child was on, Revenge of the Dreamers 3, happened
Mhm.
at Tree Sound Studios in Atlanta. And it was like big internet, hip hop internet sensation at the time because all of a sudden, all of these rappers and producers were posting the invites on their Twitter and on their Instagram. And
Mhm.
Cole invited 343 different artists and producers for 10 days in the studio. And they made 142 songs over those 10 days. A who's who of hip hop.
Oh my
Amazing.
god.
And the documentary captures it.
How have I not heard about that at all yet? Man, I don't know how behind the times I am, but I mean, are these like available songs or are they just like slowly being released or like some of them have been released already? Like what's the story on that?
A lot of them became the album Revenge of the Dreamers 3.
Mm,
But then a lot of them went to other artists, and they weren't all stuck to the Dreamville camp. I don't think anyway.
right.
Some of them might have morphed into JID's album or Boz's
Mm,
album or Earth Gang or whatever.
man.
But just fucking bananas. Like it's crazy that kind of meeting of the minds, and Cole just invited everybody and was like, let's all make this a beautiful thing.
Yeah, man, that's like that's like one of the things I love about just hip hop in general is it relies so much on like collaboration and like what is circulating at the time and like who's working with who and like a lot of the greatest things we think of in hip hop were created out of that. Like I
Yeah.
mean like Illmatic for example, like that was like the Justice League of producers in the 90s like
Mhm.
all gathering around this new lyrical phenom, you know. Yeah, so I don't know, I love hearing that, and I love hearing that it still happens, because we were kind of talking about this before you started recording, but music just keeps changing, not like the sound of music, but like the laws around music and the way the music business is
Yeah.
run keeps
Yep.
changing, and the way it changes influences how music is done. And so yeah, just to hear that people still like those still happen is just
I
like
know.
makes me happy.
I know. No, like, no worrying about whose label you're on and
Right.
can we work together and all of that political
Yeah.
bureaucracy bullshit.
That's a
Just making
God.
shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I didn't even think about that till you said it either, but just the whole competing with labels and competing with other, like hip hop. I mean, I guess hip hop is naturally competitive, but it's not that kind of competitive where like, oh, we
Right.
have like trade secrets, or like we're only gonna work with these artists. It was like competitive in the sense of like, I'm gonna beat you, but you're gonna like know, like I'm gonna tell you exactly what I'm gonna do, and I'm still gonna beat you.
Right.
You know, like that was the competitive nature. And it really wasn't about who beat who. It was just the nature of like, I'm gonna give my best effort, and whether I win or lose, like I still think I'm the best anyway.
Right.
And
Exactly.
also just it's cool.
Like I'm gonna step in the booth right after you and I'm gonna body you.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
that's the
like the
competitive
ethos.
nature that
Yeah.
that it's missing. Not the like, oh well, we want to make more money, or we want to like protect this thing, you know, like
Yeah.
I don't know. I sound like such an old dude right now. Like these young
Well,
Thundercats with their record labels.
yeah, I feel you though. I did a deep dive in this because, I had read a few stories here and there, and I knew that like Down Bad came from these sessions, and it was a
Mhm.
situation where JID walked into the studio while they were working on the song, and he was like, "Oh, let me get on this,"
Mhm.
and he came up with the hook right there, and and that became what it. I mean, it's a brilliant song.
Mhm.
Middle Child, however, was not part of these sessions. It's one of the only songs on
Mm.
the album that wasn't. Cole had it for over a month and held on to it and was like, this song is going to be it. So
Mhm.
I'm putting it on this album. And one of the things I find super interesting about this song, you were just talking about the business, and
Yeah.
sampling has become this
Oh my
hard
god.
to do thing for artists because it can cost so much money to clear a sample. You're
Mhm.
paying your publishing. A lot of the publishing goes to the original owner of the sample. Oftentimes, it
Mhm.
doesn't even go to the person who played the sample, which is kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah. Oh my god. That's
um,
ironic.
yeah, and one of the interesting things about this song is that this is the first time, or at least one of the first times, that a sample was bought from a relatively new website called Tracklib, which is
Mm.
a site that has already played the middleman for all of these samples. And not only do they have all of these old soul records, and lots of others as part of their catalog. For a lot of them, they've got the stems. So
Damn, that's
in
dope.
this case, T minus and J Cole found the sample on Tracklib, and it has vocals over it. The horn samples got vocals over it, but
Mhm.
because Tracklib had the stems, they were able to isolate just the horns
Man.
and speed those up a little bit and use that sample as the backbone for this beat. They found the sample, made the beat, completed the song in one day, one session, and they cleared the sample the same day because of Tracklib for only $500.
Man, what'd you call that website? Let me hold on a
uh,
second. Tracklib?
Tracklib.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because yeah, I mean,
it's amazing.
that's like beyond, like I was, when you said that they cleared the sample because of this website, I was not picturing that they would also have like the recording stems so that you could be like, oh, I just want the drums, or I just want The
Yeah.
vocals, oh, that's also amazing. See, okay, so maybe let me redact a little of what I said earlier about music changing, because it changes, but it stays the same. Like, we're still able to do a lot of the things that we were able to do before. It's just differently done now. So,
Yeah, and Ninth Wonder has been going hard for TrackLib. I don't know if he's involved in it somehow, but
mhm,
he does a lot of work for them and through them. There's a great series of videos of Ninth Wonder and Bob James talking about uh, all of the records that have sampled Bob James, like Nautilus, which is one of the most sampled songs in hip
mhm,
hop history. Um, and they're just in conversation pointing out the samples, and Bob James is playing them and showing, telling Ninth how they came about, and he's excited about hip hop sampling his stuff, and
yeah,
excited to have this avenue where he can still get paid, um, and the artist can do it legally,
yeah,
and so it doesn't have to become this like label fight or
yeah.
red tape bureaucracy bullshit.
Y- you know, I don't know if I'm pretty sure that this is accurate, so don't quote me on it. But uh, I was thinking of Kanye just because of like just this conversation around sampling, and when he made that series of 5 albums in 2018, that was like Nas, Pusha T, and Tiana
Hmm.
Taylor's album was on there. I think one of the
Hmm.
reasons her album was delayed forever, and I'm pretty sure one of the reasons is because Kanye had a hard time clearing the samples that he used for her beats. And that was such a huge source of frustration for her, because her album keeps getting delayed and she's supposed to be this new, or not new, but up and coming artist for good music. And
Right.
so it just goes to show, I mean, even Kanye, like someone who's been sampling for 30 years, is still and has the clout that he does. This isn't like me trying to sample something. This is like the king of sampling, and he still has a hard time with it. So it's just there's so much red tape that goes around it now for some of the right reasons, right? Like music
Yeah,
is
for
hard to
sure.
protect, and but yeah, I mean it can just be, I mean, I'm just glad that this a source like TrackLib exists for little people like me, who just
Yeah,
want to
and
use samples.
you know what's also nice about it is like if Kanye approaches a label and is like, I want to, buy rights to this sample, the label knows it's Kanye. So they're
Mhm.
going to be like, well, this is going to cost you a lot more
Oh, that's a good
than if
point.
Devin Dabney came to us and wanted to use this sample, because we know what
Yeah.
you're going to make off of this. But with TrackLib, he could buy that sample for $500.
Oh, dude, this is kind of off track, but I had a really interesting conversation with one of my good friends that's also a rapper about like the conversation of like how much to charge for your beats as a producer. And he made
Mm,
a really interesting point that, as a producer and a rapper like a producer that's selling a beat and a rapper that's buying the beat, you both are making a bet. And the bet
yeah,
for the producer, the bet is that you are not going to make more than the amount that I'm selling you this beat for with it. So like if I sell a beat to a rapper for $1,000, I'm assuming like, oh, like if they've got the rights to it, whatever, like that, $1,000 is what you're gonna make or less. And then the rapper is betting, I can make more than $1,000 if I take this
right.
beat. So it's just I mean, it just kind of brought to light that when you mentioned that, like, well, it's Kanye making it, so I know he's going to make some multi-million dollar hit off of it,
Mhm.
so I'm gonna raise the price for it. Whereas with a small rapper, it's like, well, I don't know what you're gonna do with it, so I don't need to charge you. But it would be a bet again, right? Like you could be like, oh, well, if it's a no name rapper, I'll sell it to you for $50, and then it's like a hit single.
Yep.
Um, I think the tough part is that, without the clout that Kanye has, you don't get that conversation. So you would need to be a middle ground between like a local rapper and Kanye. Is that like Joe Budden? Maybe that's the middle ground. Like you want to be,
Yeah.
well, if Joe's gonna buy this beat,
Yeah. Talib Kweli.
yeah, yeah, maybe that's a better example, like someone who's known and is good, but is not going to, not any shade to either of them, obviously, but is
No,
not going
no,
to make
no.
like some mega multi-billion dollar hit.
Right. Yeah, there's also an interesting tangent off of this is that like there's this stigma still amongst a lot of producers of digging digitally, like they
Hmm.
want to pull samples off of vinyl. Like that's still
Really?
the
Oh
that's
my
still
god.
the ethos for a lot of those kind of old head producers. And a lot
Huh.
of people just haven't embraced I can get my samples off the internet, which seems crazy to me. It's
Yeah.
when I started sampling, I went straight to CDs and MP3s as soon as they were available, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess because of my age, that wasn't like pulling samples from vinyl wasn't even like a
Yeah.
conversation, like from the second I started making music, it was I pulled it off of the internet to work with. Like that was
Mhm.
I don't have I mean I have vinyls, but I mean I don't even know how you would pull it off of a vinyl and make it digital. So yeah, that's crazy. I hadn't even thought about that. I thought it was just like a cool thing to do now, not like, oh, I'm only analog.
Mhm. Yeah, so this is a great way for, like, the new producer to be able to use all of those old pieces of music and
Yeah.
turn them into something new, which is hip hop, you know?
Yeah, and it's kind of like I guess really just the way that the track was created is kind of a testament to the message of the track anyway, where it's
Yeah.
like there's still the old element of sampling, but it was
Yep.
done in this new way for $500.
Yeah, crazy, and then went 5 times platinum.
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
We know who lost that bet. But I guess
Yeah.
Tracklib is fine. Like they're selling samples left and right. But yeah.
Yeah, and I've put a link in the show notes here as well to a YouTube video from Tracklib that is done really well and shows the breakdown of how the sample looked when they first heard it, how they
Man,
pull the stem, how they speed it up, and how it becomes middle child. So
that that's
go check that out.
that's dope. That okay, so that goes back to what I was saying earlier about like showing you. That's something I love as like a music nerd.
Mhm.
Like I love watching like, oh, here's the sample that I found and here's the things I did, like the specific things I did to it. I added this filter, I did that. Like I just want to see it. Just not so that I can do it, obviously, it's already been done, but just to watch creative process is just so valuable as a musician, for me anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm probably gonna watch that myself.
Yeah, and speaking of, watching the creative process, you had said that you'd been watching this video and, really breaking down this video, and we haven't talked about it at all yet, and it's
Yeah.
amazing. So
It
let's
is a
let's get into
great
that.
music video. Yeah, it's also nice to see that great music videos still happen, like that's
Mhm.
something that I miss about the MTV era. But the reason I love that the music video for this song Middle Child is because a lot of the imagery in it, and Cole has even said this himself, is lampooning. I don't know if that's the correct word, or mimicking middle America. So
Yeah.
he's taking these like things from hip hop and he's transplanting them into like these stereotypically midwestern things, so like mudding but he's in like an expensive ass car, or like
Right.
he's sitting in like a hunting lodge but instead of like animals it's rappers that are on the
Mhm.
wall, like the marching band thing, like the even just like the really small town like grocery store that he's in is super like evocative of like the middle of nowhere Indiana.
Yep.
So it just I don't know, I just love when there's like that juxtaposition of like, there's a lot of ways to mean like middle child, or like there's just a lot of ways to play with it. And I mean, right, he could have just made some normal music video, but I always love music videos that have like they don't have to be overly creative, but just like a little bit of like, oh, I'm going to take this stereotypical thing and put it over something that you haven't seen before. Or I guess in this case it's like two stereotypes coming together to make something unique.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one moment in the video that I think is really poignant and important, and that's in the grocery store, the
Mhm.
small town little grocery store. It's in the freezer aisle. there
Mhm.
are black women features
Dang
for
it, you
sale
you got
in
me.
the freezer, and
Y
it's white women picking up
yeah.
features of black women and putting them in their carts, and it's just fucking mind-blowing to
Y
watch.
yeah, that was the other thing I was gonna say, and it's actually, I mean, it's always gonna be relevant, but it's particularly relevant as we're having this conversation now because I just saw this, article that was talking about how white men they've discovered, laying your edges or baby hairs, like,
I saw you post that on
I
Instagram.
was like, "How late are you?" Like, they've been doing that for probably, like, 80 years at this point. But it's just funny because in the video, um, that's, like, a specific thing that they point out. It's like, at the end of
Yeah.
the music video, this white woman walks in, and she sees the black woman that's, like, stoking the fire at the lodge, and it zooms in, and there's, like, a little text thing that pops up, and it says, "Baby hairs," and then she goes to the store and buys baby hairs.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
just thought it was funny that we're talking about this now when, like, this is, like, particularly relevant today. But
yeah.
yeah.
Cole's a prophet.
Yeah, he knew that in 4 years that Chris Hampton and Devin Dabney were gonna be recording the first Liner Notes episode and that an article would be written. But, I mean, and also, like, this also testifies to one of the things that I love about him is that he's really pretty timeless, like, his
Yeah.
music is always going to have some sort of relevance. Most of his songs can be played in pretty much any era, I mean, production aside, and sound relevant, like
Mhm.
cultural appropriation is not going to ever not be relevant,
Yeah, it's not
so
going away,
yeah,
sadly.
it's not going away and it's always going to be at the forefront as long as like black people are like the leading creators of entertainment culture, which I think will always be the case. It's just always
Mhm.
going to be a conversation. So I just love um I don't know, I just love rappers that find ways to stay relevant and stay, with the times, but they don't change who they are or like change what they write about necessarily. It's just like
Yeah.
the things they choose to I don't know how to say it. You get what I'm saying though, right? He's not changing who he is, but he's still
Yep.
staying relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have an opinion on who the 3 mounted heads of the rappers are? Do
I
you
was
think there's someone in particular?
I was thinking about that. I don't think so. I mean, he has always been the kind of rapper who's like, I'm not afraid of any of you, but I'm not like I don't have anything against any of you either.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was actually before we got on this call, I was looking at them and I was like, is that like who is this supposed to be? I don't think he's like aiming at anybody specifically. I think he was just picking like people that kind of looked like a lot of modern rappers and a lot of older rappers, but I don't know. In my opinion, I think it's just like a general like here this could be you. I mean, it literally says on one of the
Yeah.
like little
Exactly.
placards, this could be you if you
Yeah.
fuck basically fuck around and find out is what he's telling you. But yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to hear what you think, but I don't think it's aimed at anybody in particular.
Yeah, I share your sentiment, but I did go down a rabbit hole on the internet trying to see what other people thought,
Mhm.
and a lot of people have opinions. I mean, somebody was like, "He's dissing Jay-Z," which I don't even
He's
know where that comes from. Some people said Kanye, some people said Offset, which one of them does look a little
yeah,
like
the
Offset.
hair.
Yeah, and some people said Kendrick, and it wasn't soon after the Control verse, I don't think, where
Mhm.
Kendrick goes at everybody, including Cole,
Yeah.
but in a friendly competition sort of way. Um, I do think that, like that zeitgeist that Kendrick kind of began of
Mhm.
the like, I will murder you, on the
Mhm.
mic kind of a feeling, Kendrick rekindled that in a lot of people. And I do
Yeah.
think these like mounted rapper heads above the mantle are a byproduct of that, but I don't think it's necessarily a response to Kendrick or a shot at anyone in particular. It's just Cole
Yeah.
being Cole.
And like why just thinking about the Jay-Z thing, why would he why would he diss Jay-Z in the same song where he
I
said,
know.
"I'm meeting Jigga for lunch?" You know, like that
I
just
know.
I don't know. I feel like he would be pretty upfront about it. And then like on the Kanye note, like he has a whole song for Kanye West. So
Yeah.
he doesn't
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I can't what's the name of that song? It's shoot.
I don't know the name of it. There
I
is a
don't
line in the beginning of this song, or near the beginning of this song, where people speculate he's talking about Kanye, where he says, "It won't be to sell you my latest little sneakers," and
Oh,
he's talking about Kanye trying to sell his Yeezys or whatever. A lot of people have speculated that, which maybe, but
I'm trying
again, that's what hip hop is. Hip hop is
yeah.
a sport as much as an art. You know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And the competitive nature of it, which I think people miss, is like it usually is not I mean, it's not meant to be actually hateful or confrontational. You know, I think that we
Yeah.
got I mean, of course everyone will point to like the 90s and like Death Row and Bad Boy, but like that was like the pinnacle of that like actual hatred in
Yeah.
music, and we kind of saw like where it led, and after we lost Big and Pac, like you see that it kind of stopped. So I mean just I don't know, I think people read too much into things sometimes, and I think most
Yeah.
of the
Same.
time if a rapper wants to talk shit about somebody, like they're going to, because rappers are just naturally they're confident. Like
Yeah.
they you know like I don't know, and it's not a one size fits all situation, but yeah, I'm not like deciphering like, oh well, this rapper sold shoes, it must be about them. I feel like especially with Cole, like if he's gonna talk shit about you, you'll know.
Yeah, everybody just wants there to be smoke everywhere,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get a little more personal with this album. Like, I have a very distinct memory, and I talk about this in the first part of this episode, uh, of hearing these bars for the first time. I was
Mm-hmm.
not a Cole fan necessarily. Like I was,
Mm-hmm.
I had listened to a lot of his stuff, but it wasn't something I kept on repeat, you know.
Yeah.
And he's skillful. I respect that. I recognize it. Just wasn't for me. And I can tell you the intersection we were at when those bars came on. Like I say in the piece, my wife loves to play hip hop that I don't know about. Like
Mhm.
she grew up in Wyoming and didn't know hip hop at all until we met. And now she like checks and she loves boom bap and things that sound older, and she'll play it when I'm in the car like all nonchalantly,
Mhm. Like, oh.
and and I'm just looking at her like, how do you know about this,
Mhm.
and she played this song, and when he says, "Fuck if you feel me, you ain't got a choice. I ain't do no promo, still made all that noise. This shit gonna be
Mhm.
different. I set my intentions. I promise to slap all that hate out your voice." I was like, "Whoa, you!" Right now, he is saying how I feel, and
Yeah.
and for me, that's so fucking important for a
Mhm.
song. And I've just been having this conversation with myself and a lot of other people about a a lot of us who've been around for a long time are constantly, trash talking newer rappers,
Mhm.
newer anything. It doesn't matter what scene you're a part of. You're always trashing the new shit.
Mhm.
And B, we hold this like reverence for the old school so much so that we're like they can do no wrong.
Yep.
And I don't think that's a healthy perspective, and I love that in these bars he's just like, look, you're the OGs, I respect you, but I will slap all that hate out your voice.
Make no mistake though. Yeah, I mean
Love it.
that's like such a I mean, it's just such a like cartoon character anime style of thing. Like, I don't care how strong you are, I'm still gonna kick your ass, like sort of mindset. That's what
Yeah.
I like about him a lot, is that he's always been like that, and like in a very cool, calm, collected sort of way. Um and I mean, I think that's why I like him, like why I like J. Cole specifically. Like when I think about all of his music as a whole, I mean, he is a good rapper, but he's not like someone who like makes me rewind because he said some crazy metaphor or something like that. It's usually just because of the way he tells stories and the
Yeah.
way he makes things real, like how you said, like, um I felt that, or I'm feeling this right now. He's very good at that. That's, to me,
Mhm.
that's his greatest merit as a rapper, is just his authentic storytelling. So
Yeah, he's
yeah.
so relatable. Like, the whole everything he does seems so relatable. Like, "Oh,
Mhm.
that could be me," you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, and that's something that I think is missed, at least by me, sometimes with rappers, is like, I mean, everybody serves a purpose, right? You do have to have rappers like Rick Ross that just rap about these like wildly unrealistic
Luxury.
like
Yeah.
luxury lifestyles, and then like, and then rappers like this who are telling like the stories that are happening around them, which is basically what hip hop was when it started. Um yeah, it just yeah, I don't know. I just really appreciate that specifically about him because, again, like when I think about him as a rapper, I'm like, he's good. Like, he's certainly good, but he's never been like, oh, wow, that rhyme scheme was like out of this world, or like that rhythm
Right.
was out of this world. I mean, honestly, I think the cadence he raps in for this song is the same the whole time. So he's not like switching his
Mhm.
flow up. But he doesn't need to, because like I'm focused on like the story he's telling. So
Yeah, same. Have you ever listened to this entire album,
I
Revenge of the
actually
Dreamers
haven't.
3?
I
I
haven't.
haven't either.
And I'm ashamed to say this, but the first time I heard, well, not ashamed because of the reason, but the first time I heard this song was when you played it for me.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't you
No
remember, like,
shit.
we were driving to Boulder and you were like, have you heard Middle Child? And I was like, no. And then that was when you played it.
I
Um
don't remember this at all.
Yeah, so it's just kind of a like funny full circle situation because, yeah, you were the person that played the song for me, and you pointed out I mean, it was like you told me the story that you just told everyone else.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's just kind of
I didn't
funny to
know that.
see it all like come back together. But yeah, like, I mean, just, passing it down, right? Like, so,
Yeah.
and little did we know, once again, that like a year or
Yeah.
so later, this is what we would be doing, is talking about this song.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's one of the things that's relatable about this. Like, I feel like a middle child. Like,
Mhm.
I have learned I have learned from a lot of, my elders, and
Mhm.
I really enjoy passing down that knowledge that I've gained.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I think, like, the thing that it kind of brought to light for me is that we all have a point in our life where we become that, where we're transitioning from the young new thing to like the veteran, and I
yeah.
think it just brought more awareness to like, oh, where am I in my hip hop journey, and I kind of feel
Mhm.
like that's where I am right now in my journey, where like I'm definitely not a new rapper anymore, but
Right.
I don't think I'm an old rapper either, and I have
I am
people.
an old rapper.
I mean, old by the standard that like rappers aren't typically older, but we haven't
Yeah.
even gotten to see rappers age yet because
It's a
hip-hop is
new thing.
only it's like literally hip hop's only like 5 years older than you. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm saying that as like it's young. Like, I'm not saying that you
Yeah.
it sounds terrible, but you get what I'm saying. Like, hip hop has only been
It's
around
true.
for 50 years. Like, yeah, literally 50 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, so the people that are doing it are just now, like, the first rappers are just now starting to hit their like 70s, and not even that, and most of them are probably still in their 60s. So
Yep.
yeah, we just don't have very many examples of rappers getting older, and so I just love that J. Cole like embodied a piece of that journey, where it's not like I'm old, but it's like, oh, like I'm not the young gun anymore, but I'm also
Yeah.
like respected too. So I don't know,
Mhm.
it's a really cool like piece of time that he's got.
Yeah, I agree. What are your favorite bars from this song?
Um, yeah. I have a couple. I mean, there's nothing. I think I said this earlier, but there's nothing that like was like whoa for me. But
Yeah.
I just love his little quips. Like, I studied the greats. I'm the greatest right now. Of like, yeah,
Hmm.
I was a good student, and here's my proof. Or like, uh, I hope you know money won't erase the pain. Like, it's not like profound, but it's just the way it's said and the context makes me like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, I love that. One thing I do love that's a little more lyrical is the line, "We killing our brothers, they poison the well," because it seems simple, but it just is like it's actually really deep because it's talking
Yeah.
about how, like, we're killing each other, but we don't even know how or why we're killing each other, basically, of, like, we're defeating ourselves and we like know it, but we don't know how it's happening. And it's because we're just
Hmm.
handing water from this well that was poisoned, So it's just, I don't know. I just thought that was really profound because it really encapsulated like one of the plights of Black America, is like,
Yeah.
the cards are stacked against you and you're like, and people can say like you're responsible for it, but you're really not. Like it was all predetermined before you. So that's probably my favorite line, honestly, just because of how deep it is and how simple it is.
Yeah, I love that he slides that section in there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, here's this song that's a little braggadocious, and
Mm-hmm.
then I have great respect for people who can like hide the medicine, in
Oh
the
yeah.
dessert or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he does that here, where he slides in this short piece about, we come from a long bloodline of trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like, oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
We have to be these people. We have to help the people coming up. We have to learn from our elders,
Yeah.
and here's why. you know
Yeah. Shit. You kind of just piece together, like, once again, like he's alluding to the message of the song is like, as a middle child, like, this is
yeah.
what I'm noticing, like
Yep.
I can see both sides of this situation. um yeah, it just I mean, it just makes me like that line even more because I didn't even think about it in the context of being a brother, like a like middle child, but
Hmm.
that's exactly why he put it in the song, and that's why he's a really good rapper.
Yeah, for sure. For me, it's definitely the "fuck if you feel me, you ain't got a choice"
Yeah.
lines. The bars I already mentioned. Those are the ones for me. Those are the ones that made it an anthem for me. Those bars are
Hmm.
the reason that I have a playlist on Spotify that is just this song, and I listened to it. I was driving across the country and feeling away, and I listened to this song. I mean, it had to have been 100 times in a row, just over and over and over. And I don't do that. I'm an album person. I don't listen to the same song over and over. So,
Yeah, I
um,
think I'm like you, where I usually am an album person, but admittedly, just as music has changed and the way that it's been created has changed, like, if I find a song I really like, I listen to it 1,000 times, and then and
mm,
then I incorporate it into my regular rotation, So like,
yeah,
yeah, just especially the way music is now, where it's designed basically to be addictive and to be replayable. Like, it just and I'm such a production nerd. Like, I just love any kind of production, not just hip hop, but just really appreciating the way songs are put together and like the thought behind it. Like,
yeah.
yeah, sometimes it just lends itself to being played over and over and over again until like you just put it in your regular playlist.
Yep. On this note, just a quick side tangent here. My
Hmm.
friend Brendan Leonard sent me a video from Complex that's called the Rap Music Generation Gap Debate,
Hmm.
and it was a panel hosted by Angie Martinez.
Hmm.
And I'll put a link to it in the show notes here. But at around 5 minutes and 24 seconds in,
Hmm.
Pete Rock, who absolute legend, no question,
Hmm.
can't take that away from him, but he's talking way out of pocket about new rappers
Ooh.
and how trash they all are. And Vince Staples steps in and
Yeah.
quite quite calmly and politely and concisely slaps the hate out of Pete's voice, and I fucking love it. It makes me so happy when people do that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and I'm so glad that Vince Staples is the one to do it cuz he's another new rapper that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's kind of another middle child too in the sense of like he embodies both the old and new ways of hip hop, you know? Like he's got a
Mhm.
lot of that in him. And yeah, that's I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll have an episode on this later in the podcast, but just there was a moment in time where I realized that that was what I was doing,
Yeah.
that I was leaning too much into like, oh, all these new
Same.
rappers are garbage. And like, you know, the reality of it is, like, just to put it as super succinctly, like to make it a very short story, is that there are just more rappers. There were like the percentage of bad and good rappers, I don't think is that different. I just think that 40 years ago, there was like 70 rappers and like two of them were
Yeah.
trash. But now there's God knows how many rappers, and a lot of them are trash, but it's just proportionally larger. Like there's still plenty of good rappers. There's still plenty of great rappers, and there's a lot of okay rappers, you know?
Yep.
I don't think it's really any different than it was a while like 40 years ago. You know.
Yeah. I am definitely in danger of becoming that person, you know? And I have a 24-year-old daughter who has helped me in that regard. Like, she turned me on to Chance and to Tyler and Odd Future,
Mhm.
and,
Yeah.
and I love that shit, and that has just led me to be at least a little more open. There are
Mhm.
definitely still times where I'm like, "Nope, not for
Yeah,
me,"
for
and that's
sure.
okay, as long as you give it a chance, I think it's totally okay to move on.
I think so
Um,
too. I think so too because I mean the other reason for that is like not all music from 40 years ago was good. I'm sure there's
right, right,
rappers from 40 years ago that you would turn on and be like, "Nope, not for me." And not it's not just because it's old. Old doesn't mean good. Like it and
right.
new doesn't mean bad. I think just remembering that music is music and like the like patterns of it are cyclical, you know, like I bet you in like 20 or 30 years music is going to start to sound somewhat similar to it did to the way it did a while ago, you know, like it just
Yeah,
it isn't the I don't know. It's the same story over and over again, and yeah, the more we can realize that like music is just music and you know, it changes but it also doesn't change. I mean, even just like what you mentioned about the sampling, like sampling is different, but there's also still sampling. It's just done differently, you know.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and it's good to have younger people. I don't know how to say it other than that in your life that can kind of.
For sure.
I guess really what I'm saying is it's good to just be around different people. You know, I think
Yeah,
as a just like as a human, like I like to be around people who have different perspectives, viewpoints, and that kind of goes with music too. Like I like to spend time with people who like different genres besides hip hop, or like people that even people that hate hip hop. I still have as my friends, or they just don't know anything about it. It just perspective, you know, like just
yep.
that's like my anti-aging medicine is just perspective.
I love it. I love it. Well said. If you are watching this on YouTube or listening to it anywhere but Spotify, then you're missing half of the podcast. Every other week, we release short, focused essays set to beats, followed by the full song that we're learning the lesson from. Those are only available on Spotify Premium. You only get 30 seconds of the song if you're a regular Spotify user, which is still better than nothing. Go check those out, please. We've got all of the links that I mentioned. We've got videos, bonus material at the blog posts for these episodes at hiphoptaughtmeeverything.com. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter. And we'll see you next time when a velvet-voiced MC teaches me confidence via one of the greatest diss tracks of all time.
Heck yeah.